Hello everyone, it's Laura again, here to talk with you about young adult materials, SLIS 757, fall 2018. Let's start talking about realistic fiction. Let's dive right into our materials. I want to talk about some reader's advisory and then books on our recommended and required list. Hopefully you've already gotten started or finished with 13 Reasons Why. Please do also start looking for one of these seminal reads. I've limited that to The Outsiders or The Chocolate War. If you've already read them, that's okay, but please do at least do a quick reread, and we will discuss those a little bit later. I've also posted the list of required or suggested reads, and that will sort of coincide with what I'm talking about today. Okay, so I have spent the past several days handing out laptops at my school. What I would really prefer to do is reader's advisory. It's one of my favorite things. So part of what we're learning to do in this class is do some of that reader's advisory, and so that you have a repertoire of books that you have read so that you can recommend good things to your students when you get to your classroom, your library in a school, or your public library. So reader's advisory. You want to give service to your patrons, to your students. You want to match the kids with the right books. So hopefully this will help you do this. We want to meet their leisure and informational reading needs, fiction and nonfiction. I'm hoping this helps you to be knowledgeable. I have the sense that many of you are already big readers and have a good knowledge core, but it takes a while to get to know your library once you get a real job in a library, if you're not already working in one. Also, being non-judgmental is really important. I tend to have very strong viewpoints, and I have to filter a little bit when I'm recommending things to kids to make sure that they feel welcome. So keep that in mind. There are many times where finding the right book for the right kid at the right time, I don't know, hopefully you'll get a sense for it. But having this background of a whole bunch of books that you've recently read that are up to date, it makes it so much easier to match a kid with a book. So, and one of the other great things about Reader's Advisory is that you share your reading with your patrons. You share that experience. I think most of us have had the experience where you read a book, it's awesome, and you can't wait to have someone else read it so you can talk about it. That's why people have book clubs. It's not just for drinking. It's the idea that there's a shared community and a shared experience with that reading. And so Reader's Advisory ties into all of that. Okay, so when you're evaluating young adult fiction, it's much like evaluating fiction that you like to read as a grown-up. If you are a grown-up and you like to read grown-up literature, I'm not much of one. Anyway, quality fiction. A good plot, believable plot. Or maybe if it's not believable, at least it's good. Convincing characters, lifelike characters, characters you can relate to, or characters that you don't even like, but you can't stop reading about. Good setting that enhances the story. It's essential to the characters and plot. And obviously, style, the way the author uses language. Does the author use devices, imagery, personification, similes, metaphor, onomatopoeia, love that word, alliteration. All that good stuff adds to the beauty of the language and adds to the joy of reading it. If you're sitting there going, that is so stilted, or that's fake, it really destroys your enjoyment of a book. So our best YA authors are writing good fiction, just straight up good fiction. If you have not read Voya yet, read you some Voya, please. That's bad grammar, sorry. Anyway, Voice of Youth Advocates, the Voya Evaluation Code. So they review young adult literature, and they do a very thorough job. They review for both quality and popularity. So 5 Qs is the top. It's beautifully written. 1 Q, wow, how did that get through the publishing house? Same for popularity. 5P, every young adult was dying to read it yesterday. Or 4, there's broad interest. Or 3, it'll appeal. You're not going to have to push. 2 is for somebody who has specific interest. And obviously 1 is like nobody would read it unless it's assigned. You know, it's like reading The Scarlet Letter. Woo. I had to read that in high school. Actually, now I think it's a good book, but in high school, he had to force me to read it. All right, so if you haven't seen Voya, please go look at some Voya. You, of course, have a wide variety of selection tools when you're going to purchase for your school or public library. Some professional titles to help you make choices. The H.W. Wilson reference titles. They are in hard copy and available online. There is a middle and junior high core collection and a senior high core collection. Don't be afraid to use your book jobber. Also, if you are working in a school, I know that Mackin and Follett are two groups that will help you set up a collection if you're moving into a new school. And Libraries Unlimited, best books for middle school and junior high readers, best books for high school readers, and best books for young adults. So we'll also look at other titles in future classes, but these are some sources or resources out there to help you select good young adult materials. An awesome resource available to all of us as USC students. For review sources, you would want to see the database called the Children's Literature Comprehensive Database, CLCD. This identifies children's and young adult literature by author, illustrator, subject, genre, age, or grade level, language, Lexile range, and publisher. I personally don't like Lexile range all that much. Let kids read what they don't want to read. But that's my editorial for the moment. It has over 900,000 records, so you should be able to find whatever it is you're looking for as far as a young adult title. It's available from Thomas Cooper Library, so if you went to their webpage, you would go to electronic resources, article databases, articles, databases, and indexes. It's the first one under the drop-down bar, at least it was last time I looked. Browse by name, click on C, then scroll down to the link so you know what it is, Children's Literature Comprehensive Database. You can always contact the Thomas Cooper Library Reference Desk if you don't get there, if you have trouble, okay? Other review sources, journals. One of my favorites is Booklist and Book Links Quarterly. I don't look at that as much, but I do like Booklist. Bulletin of the Center for Children's Books, Hornbook. I look at that occasionally. School Library Connection. That began in fall 2015, and it was a merger of School Library Media Connection and School Library Monthly. The School Library Journal, I also read that fairly frequently, though they tend to stack up on my desk. I get a little bit backed up. And Voya, I think, is a great review journal. Educational journals, the Allen Review, Assembly on Literature for Adolescents from the National Council of Teachers of English, the Journal of Adolescent and Adult Literature, and Voices from the Middle. I actually read that sometimes too. But you may find when you get to your real job that it gets difficult to read stuff, to get through as much as you'd like. I could spend hours and hours reading book reviews and then not get any books actually read. Maybe you have that problem. Maybe you don't. Anyway, I stick to Voya and School Library Journal, but that is just what works well for me. I would try to peek at as many of these resources as possible so that when you're out being your professional librarian self, you know what works for you. There are some review sources that are electronic. If you are not as much of a Luddite as I am, I like to read things on paper. I'm old-fashioned that way. However, these good websites, Cooperative Children's Book Center, Young Adult Book Central, Curled Up with a Good Kids Book. Look at the young adult section. They have nice reviews, easy to read, easy to access. If you're stuck somewhere and you have forgotten a book, you can look this stuff up on your phone. Listservs that you could get on, the YALSA listserv. There are also National and State Professional Association listservs for librarians and teachers, including Skazzle, MeLibs, Vazzle, etc. I personally am overwhelmed by email, so I avoid listservs unless there's a specific purpose, like I need something from it. But some people can handle more input than I can, so consider listservs if you want more review information. Other review sources include blogs, Adult Books for Teens from School Library Journal. That's actually a nice one. My principal has mentioned to me several times that she wishes that I purchased more adult novels for teens, and so that is a resource that I have tapped. Another review source is A Chair, a Fireplace, and a Tea Cozy, The Green Bean Teen Queen. That is fairly up to date. Guys Litwire, The Hub from YALSA, Reader Girls, and teenreads.com are other blog review sources. I'm not a big blog reader, but I try to pay attention to some of the stuff that comes out. Again, I get information overload. You may be able to manage reading a blog and being on a listserv at the same time. I think that would blow my mind. Find the review source that works for you is what I'm trying to tell you. So for social networking book review sites, I have used Goodreads. I like it. I actually like that a lot. I have danced around or poked at Library Thing a little bit. I've heard other people praise it. Shelfari, We Read, and Anobi. I have probably mispronounced that. Sorry. Those are other resources you could use that I have not used widely. Are there others out there? And also check the source of the social networking book review site. They may have an agenda that might not be quite so obvious until you poke around for a little bit. Just keep that in mind. If you like the agenda, great. If it's not your agenda, just maybe think twice. All right, this is a little overwhelming, but YALSA has tons of awards and award lists for young adult books, which makes sense. There's the Alex Awards, Best Books for Young Adults, Best Fiction for Young Adults, Excellence in Nonfiction for Young Adults, Great Graphic Novels for Teens, Margaret A. Edwards Award, and the Michael Prince Award for Excellence in Young Adult Literature. So if you're looking for an award list, here's a bunch of them. And if you need other like selections or ideas, check these lists for up-to-date stuff that should be really high quality. Now, I'll tell you, I was not a graphic novel fan. I guess I got on board probably in about 2003, which shows how old I am. But into about 2003, I had a new coworker with me at Drury High School, and she just was the bomb. And she's like, we got to get graphic novels. I'm like, yeah, comic books, no. And she said yes. She insisted, and we got a whole bunch, and they circulate probably more than anything in my library, just so you know. So take a peek at some of those graphic novels. Even if you're a naysayer, try and find something to read. And it's on our required suggested reading list, so look for some graphic novels. And even more lists of awards for young adult books of the YALSA lists. Outstanding Books for the College Bound by YALSA, Popular Paperbacks for Young Adults, Quick Picks for Reluctant Young Adult Readers by YALSA, Teens Top 10, and the William C. Morris YA Debut Award. All great resources for finding good things to read or purchase for your library. Other lists you can use for young adult books. The South Carolina Young Adult Book Award list, SCASL Book Award list, or any other state's book award lists. I will tell you, I was on the SCASL Book Award list from 2006 to 2008. At the time, it was a 3-year commitment. That was great for my reader's advisory. Let me tell you, they forced you to read like 100 books and then winnow it down to 20. And out of that 100 books, I would say, I don't know, 60% of them were really, really good. And then there were some that were weird, but it's a great way to force yourself to read a whole bunch and get to know your collection. You could also look at the Young Adults Choices reading list. That's a good source too. Lists of awards for young adult audiobooks, Amazing Audiobooks for Young Adults from YALSA, and the Odyssey Award for Excellence in Audiobook Production. There's one title and some honors books, either children's or young adults. I am not an audiobook person. I'm a terrible, terrible listener. That's part of why you can call me at my work number, but I would much prefer it if you emailed me. I don't know what it is about the phone. Or audiobooks. It's one of those, that's not my modality of learning. So anyway, but I have included it because I know that plenty of folks do learn by listening, and this is another way to encourage readers or encourage reluctant readers is to have some audiobooks available. Okay, now we're on to the fun part. Yay! We're going to talk about our required reading of realistic fiction. The genre or this area is required. You have to read some realistic fiction. I have selected 5 or 6. I've lost count. I kept looking at the list and then taking things on and putting things on and taking things off, and so the number has changed. Anyway, I have recommended these. I have read most of them. A couple of them I recommended to force myself to sit down and read them. Anyway, if you don't like what I have selected, you may choose outside of that. Just make sure it's a realistic fiction to fit in this genre. All right. Also, if you do choose outside of the recommended reads, please make sure that it is up to date, as in like the past 5 years, please. And please make sure that it has at least one positive review, preferably more. It should be well reviewed if you're going to take the time to read it. All right, so here we go. Recommend. All right, first recommendation, Beneath a Meth Moon, an Elegy by Jacqueline Woodson. This author is so lovely. She's just lovely. Hopefully you've heard of her. Hopefully you've read something by her. If you haven't, this is an excellent choice. It's the story of a young girl who uses crystal meth to escape the pain of losing her mother. It is set after Hurricane Katrina, her mother and her grandmother, and she struggles with the addiction to crystal meth. Obviously, this is timely as there is a huge amount of drug addiction occurring in our country. You can see Woodson discussing this book on YouTube by following the link here. Kirkus Reviews calls it a moving, honest, and hopeful story. And I just love, Jacqueline Woodson is a lovely writer. Really, I think you might enjoy this. Well, I don't know, reading about crystal meth is particularly enjoyable, but her writing is enjoyable. How about that? All right, in the interest of honesty, I haven't read this yet. It's on my nightstand. I need to start, but I knew I had to do your course lectures this week before I start reading. Anyway, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. This is about 16-year-old Star Carter. She moves between two worlds. She lives in a poor neighborhood, but she is at a fancy prep school. She struggles with the balance between these two worlds, and particularly struggles when she witnesses the fatal shooting of her childhood best friend Khalil at the hands of a police officer. Khalil was unarmed. This is thematically similar to another book I'm recommending. You'll understand why I recommend either of them or both of them. They're very timely anyway. And specifically, if you work with an urban population, I think it's important to read perhaps one of these, both of them. Anyway, The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas. Hopefully you've also read something by Sarah Dessen. She tends to be more popular with girls. I do not like to pigeonhole books as girl books or boy books, but I will tell you that more girls than boys check out Sarah Dessen. That said, Once and For All by Sarah Dessen, published in 2017. It's as bubbly as champagne and delectable as wedding cake. I think this is from the inside cover. It's been a while since I looked at this. Sarah Dessen's 13th novel is set in the world of wedding planning where crises are routine. So this is about Launa, the daughter of a famed wedding planner, Natalie Barrett. She's seen every sort of wedding, on the beach, at historic mansions and fancy hotels and clubs. Perhaps that's why she's cynical about happily ever after endings, especially since her own first love ended tragically. That's a nice little book talk cliffhanger if you're interested in doing book talks, because you find out that she's had a tragic love and then you want to know more. So that is a nice trick to use if you're book talking. I agree with the main character. It's hard to not be a little bit cynical. Hope you guys aren't yet. All right. Anyway, next. Also on our theme of police violence. Not that it's a great theme. It's kind of sad, but it's really timely. So, All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Keeley. This came out in 2016. I used this with the Pernille Rip Read Aloud exchange program, and the name of that program escapes me. I'm going to have to look it up. I'm sorry. But I partnered with a class in New Hampshire. I live in South Carolina, and we did a read aloud using Google Hangouts, and then exchanged information and had us hang out with the two classes that read the book. It was pretty cool. And All American Boys lent itself well to a read aloud. So, All American Boys is by two authors. The two authors alternate chapters. It's told in the alternating viewpoints of characters Rashad and Quinn, though there are other characters who are voiced in the book as well. All American Boys tells the story of what happens to a basketball team, their school, several families, and a whole town when a young black man experiences police violence. Really, it's really moving, and it's simply written. It's very accessible as far as language, though there is some cursing in that one, just an FYI. But it is certainly a heavy topic, so keep that in mind if you're going to read this or recommend it. Speak by Lori Halse Anderson. This is a little on the dated side. Well, I don't think it's dated, it's just a little older. So I apologize, but it's actually one of my favorites. And this is one of the first novels that I pushed when I first got to my job at Drew High School. And it got several of my English teachers hooked on it for a while. I still book talk this at work. It's sad and funny at the same time. So it's her first novel. A few weeks before her freshman year of high school, Melinda and her friend Rachel are invited to a high school party. There, Melinda gets drunk and meets a senior, Andy Evans, who takes her to a secluded part of the woods and rapes her. As a result, she is traumatized and stops speaking, thus the title. But it is told from Melinda's voice, and her descriptions of high school are both brutal and astute and hilarious. So there is some humor to this book as well. I just wanted to let you know, obviously it's might be a trigger, but there's some comic relief as well. So it was a National Book Award finalist. It was a Michael Prince Honor, a New York Times bestseller, an American Library Association Best Book for Young Adults. It was translated into 10 languages. You can see a YouTube video of Miss Anderson reading her poem, Listen, if you'd like to, by clicking that link. There's a text version available at the link here too. So she also has a website you might want to take a peek. I've read several things by this author and have enjoyed all of them. I would recommend her. All right, I debated for this one whether I was going to put Everything, where the sun is also a star on here. So I have read Everything, and not The Sun is Also a Star. This is to force me to read it too. I hope you choose it also. Anyway, The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. It was written in 2016. The main character is Natasha. This is from the inside cover, I believe. I'm a girl who believes in science and facts, not fate, not destiny, or dreams that will never come true. I'm definitely not the kind of girl who meets a cute boy on a crowded New York City street and falls in love with him. Not when my family is 12 hours away from being deported to Jamaica. Falling in love with him won't be my story. I enjoy Nicola Yoon's style. It's very straightforward, though I will tell you in Everything, there was a sense of mystery because I wasn't sure if the main character was a reliable narrator. So I'm not sure if that's what's happening in this one, but this is also on my nightstand waiting to be read. So I hope you pick this, which will force me to plow through it also. All right, upcoming assignments. Required weekly readings. Oh, shoot. All right, upcoming assignments. You will have required weekly readings under weekly content. Please read the chapters and articles under weekly content. I know that most of you have already read the August 23rd folder, so look in there, make sure you've read chapter 1, respond to the post on the required discussion board forum by Wednesday, August 29th. That you're looking in the 23rd folder to respond on the 29th. I will get our folders and readings synced up at some point in the next 2 days. So it'll be a little bit more clear. And I'll make sure I have the posts on our calendar as well, so you know when things are due, so you don't get caught off guard. All right. So please be working on that review sources worksheet. It's due by midnight on Thursday, August 30th. I realize when I have started reading your introductions that many of you, like me, are working full time. So break that up. Do a third of it tonight. Do a third of it Wednesday. Do a third of it Thursday, and then you'll be done. It is a little bit of a beast, so get that done. But it's just to make sure that you have looked at a huge variety of review sources. You're comfortable getting into Thomas Cooper online, and that you are aware that there's a whole bunch of stuff out there to help you choose good literature for yourself, for your students, for your patrons, for your library. You have the required reading, 13 Reasons Why. Please finish the book by September 10th, and you're going to have a required discussion board forum post on 13 Reasons Why. You'll need to post that by Wednesday, September 13th. I will have that post up for you shortly after I post this. I will have several things posted for you right after I post this. I just wanted to get this video up because there's a lot of info. So the review sources worksheet, it's a twofold assignment. I want you to get hands-on with review sources, selection sources, become familiar with authors for the upcoming author project. I want you to select your author from the Margaret A. Edwards Award. There's a link right here. I'll make sure that the PowerPoint for this lecture is also posted. The author you choose must have at least published one YA title that you will read for class. You're going to complete the review sources worksheet and submit it on a Blackboard under the assignments by 11 p.m. on Thursday, August 30th. I believe I have that up already. I think I'll go check. Anyway, be sure to allow plenty of time. This is a large assignment. It would be tough to do in one sitting. You can do it, but try and break it up a little. Please email me with questions. I've had several questions already. I owe 2 people emails right now, and as soon as I'm done recording, I will do that. If you have questions as to why there's a dog barking in the background, that's Moose. I'm sorry. She's noisy, and I don't have a studio. I just do this in my dining room. Sometimes I hide in my bedroom when my kids are in the other room. Anyway, questions, send me an email. More to come. Stay with me, y'all. All right, bye.